The Pentagon. Washington, District of Columbia, September 23, 2032. 3 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Time. General Marcus Mitchell burst into the Situation Room. On the screens, a world map bathed in red. Not isolated red zones, not conflict regions. The entire map, every single allied nation simultaneously turned crimson. "Confirmed, sir," Captain Tyler Rivers from Intelligence reported, his voice cracking. NATO Article 5 suspended by unanimous vote. 29 former allies, simultaneously, coordinated down to the second. Mitchell stared at the screen. United Kingdom, red. France, red. Germany, red. Japan, red. South Korea, red. Australia, red. Even Canada, especially Canada. "How many bases do we have on foreign soil?" the general asked, though he already knew the answer. 750 overseas installations, all of them now on hostile territory, sir. 200,000 American personnel. $360 billion in equipment. Cut off. The unthinkable had happened. For the first time since 1776, America stood completely alone. 48 hours earlier, United Nations General Assembly, New York City, September 21st. Major Jackson Carter watched the vote. 12 years diplomatic experience. Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq. He thought he'd seen everything. "United States motion rejected," the Secretary General announced. "Final vote, 193 against, 1 in favor, 0 abstentions." 193 to 1. Traditional allies voted against. Britain's ambassador smiled. Carter cornered Britain's deputy after. "We've been allies 80 years. Were allies, past tense. Beijing controls 40% of global manufacturing. Moscow, 30% of energy. Together, they offer non-interference, no regime changes, just trade. You're choosing totalitarianism over democracy? We're choosing pragmatism over ideology. Welcome to the new world. American allies, 0. Carter's warning report that night. Catastrophic collapse imminent. Pentagon called it impossible. State Department called it fear-mongering. 48 hours later, impossible became reality. The betrayal came through official channels. Diplomatic notes delivered simultaneously at 0300 hours Eastern Time. Each message identical, translated into English from 29 languages. Admiral Wyatt Drake read Japan's message 3 times, unable to believe the words. Effective immediately, the Mutual Defense Treaty between Japan and the United States is terminated. All U.S. military personnel must evacuate Japanese territory within 72 hours. Failure to comply will result in forced removal. 72 hours to evacuate 54,000 personnel from Okinawa, Yokosuka, Sasebo, and 37 other installations across Japan. Physically impossible. Logistically insane. Deliberately designed to fail. "They know we can't evacuate in 72 hours, Drake said, staring at the message. "They're creating justification for military action." Colonel Phoenix Hawthorne from Special Operations pulled up satellite imagery. Chinese naval forces steaming toward Japan. People's Liberation Army Navy Type 055 destroyers, Type 052 destroyers, 43 warships total. Russian submarines detected in the Sea of Okhotsk. Pacific Fleet submarines, nuclear-powered attack boats. A coordinated encirclement forming in real time. "It's not just Japan," Hawthorne reported, pulling up more intelligence feeds. "Germany gave us 48 hours to leave Ramstein Air Base. South Korea wants us out of Camp Humphreys in 72 hours. United Kingdom is nationalizing our facilities in Lakenheath and Mildenhall. Poland seizing Redzikovo. Spain taking Rota Naval Station. Every single ally acting in concert. Same hour, same language, coordinated." Mitchell understood immediately. This wasn't spontaneous Allied frustration. This was planned operation. They didn't just abandon us. They coordinated with Beijing and Moscow. This is a planned takeover of American overseas infrastructure. They're not asking us to leave. They're forcing us out and seizing everything we leave behind. The numbers were devastating. 750 bases spanning 5 continents, 200,000 personnel scattered across allied nations, 55 nuclear weapons stored in 5 NATO countries under dual-key arrangements, 460 aircraft from F-35 stealth fighters to C-17 transports, 27 ships, including 2 aircraft carriers, 14 destroyers, 11 submarines. All about to be seized. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Sterling from Naval Intelligence delivered the final blow. Sir, intercepted communications suggest allied nations plan to transfer our equipment directly to Chinese and Russian forces. Our F-35 fighters in Japan going to Beijing's Air Force. Our Aegis missile defense systems in South Korea going to Moscow. Our satellite intelligence facilities in Australia being handed to Chinese Ministry of State Security. They're not just expelling us, they're rearming our adversaries with our own technology. For 70 years, America's global strategy depended on forward deployment, bases ringing China and Russia, rapid response capabilities, power projection from Allied territory, all of it built on assumption of Allied cooperation. That cooperation sustained through Cold War, through Gulf War, through War on Terror, unshakable alliance architecture. In 72 hours, that entire architecture would collapse. Hour 12. September 23, 1500 hours. National Security Council emergency session. Worst case analysis, Mitchell demanded. Rivers pulled up projections. 200,000 personnel stranded, loss of global power projection, Fortress America with no forward presence. Can we evacuate in 72 hours? 10% of personnel maximum, 2% of equipment. We need 400 cargo aircraft. We have 70. Allies denying overflight rights. Then we defend in place. All overseas commanders, fortify positions, do not surrender equipment. Hour 24. Ramstein Air Base, Germany, September 24th. German forces surrounded the base. Bundeswehr tanks, 50,000 troops. American garrison, 8,000 personnel. German commander broadcast, 24 hours to evacuate. After that, we assume hostile occupation. Base commander Brigadier General Christina Walsh calculated, 8,000 people, 72 F-16 fighters, 12 transports, Patriot batteries. Evacuation impossible. She ordered preparation to destroy equipment rather than allow capture. Hour 48. Naval Station Yokosuka, Japan. Admiral Drake watched Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force blockade the base. Behind them, Chinese Type 055 destroyers, 47 warships total. Drake commanded 2 carriers, 7 destroyers, 4 submarines, 18 support vessels. They're not attacking, just surrounding. They're cutting us off, Drake replied. No resupply, 30 days of food maximum. They'll starve us into surrender. Breakout? Possible. But fight Japanese ships, start a war, then run 4,000 nautical miles to Pearl Harbor through Chinese forces. Hour 72. Pentagon, September 26th. Mitchell reviewed status. Europe, bases surrounded. Asia, bases blockaded. Middle East, bases seized. Africa, facilities nationalized. No good options, Rivers summarized. Evacuate and lose everything. Resist and fight 29 countries. Surrender and arm Beijing and Moscow. Hawthorne proposed, destroy everything, leave them nothing but burned metal. 70 years of investment, $360 billion. Or hand it to our enemies, sir. Mitchell made the call. Destruction orders, classified equipment destroyed, sensitive technology rendered inoperable. Hour 84. Ramstein Air Base, September 26th. Brigadier General Walsh watched demolition teams wire explosives to 72 F-16 fighters. $2.2 billion about to become scrap. German forces advancing, not waiting 24 hours. Bundeswehr tanks 1 kilometer from perimeter. Detonate, all aircraft, everything. Explosions lit the countryside. 72 fighters became fireballs. Hangars collapsed, runways cratered. Mushroom clouds visible 50 kilometers. Germans halted, stunned. Americans destroying billions rather than allowing capture. Walsh evacuated on last transport. Ramstein burned. 70 years of NATO ended in flames. Hour 96, Yokosuka Naval Base, September 27th. Drake issued the unthinkable. Scuttle USS Ronald Reagan. $11 billion. Rather than Chinese capture, send it to the bottom. Reactor shutdown complete. Ship secure for scuttling. 5,000 sailors evacuated. Seacocks opened. Water flooded compartments. 90 minutes later, USS Ronald Reagan slipped beneath Tokyo Bay. Japanese and Chinese vessels watched in shock. 7 destroyers followed, 4 submarines, 18 support ships. Entire Pacific Fleet sent to the bottom. Hour 108, Global Assessment, September 27th. Sterling compiled damage. Europe, 42 bases destroyed, 117 aircraft demolished. Asia, 63 bases destroyed, 214 aircraft demolished, 31 ships scuttled. Middle East, 28 bases destroyed. Worldwide, 750 bases reduced to rubble, 460 aircraft destroyed, 27 ships scuttled, 55 nuclear weapons secured and evacuated, $360 billion destroyed. China and Russia's plan to seize technology thwarted by scorched earth. America's global presence obliterated. Hour 120, Pentagon, September 28th. Mitchell reviewed strategic reality. 70 years of forward presence doctrine obliterated. We're back to 1939, Carter observed. Fortress America, no allies, surrounded by hostile powers. Not defeated, Hawthorne countered. We have homeland, 2 oceans, nuclear deterrence. We're regrouped. Rivers showed revised assessments. Beijing-Moscow alliance controls Eurasia, 7.2 billion people, 65% of global GDP. The implications? Decades of allied intelligence partnerships terminated. MI6, Mossad, German intelligence, all gone. They took our bases and our eyes, Sterling noted. We're strategically blind. Mitchell understood. We've been global hegemon since 1945, 87 years. That era ended. Can we survive as continental power? Unclear. 2 oceans provided defense, but also isolation. American economy needed global trade. 90% of goods moved by ships. Those waters now hostile. Best case, Mitchell asked. We survive, Rivers replied. Worst case? Economic strangulation. No trade partners, no power projection. They wait for internal collapse. Hour 132, White House Address. The President spoke to 100 million Americans. We face greatest crisis since 1776. 72 hours destroyed 80 years of alliances. 750 bases gone. 360 billion equipment demolished to prevent enemy capture. We destroyed our infrastructure rather than arm adversaries, burned our bases rather than surrender, scuttled our fleet rather than see enemy flags. Some call this defeat. I call it survival. We stand alone, but we stand. Atlantic and Pacific remain vast, nuclear deterrent intact, homeland free. 80 years we defended the world. Now we defend ourselves. Former allies chose Beijing and Moscow. History will judge their choice. We're done seeking permission, done compromising. America stands alone. America endures. General Marcus Mitchell retired 6 months later. 42 years of service ended with greatest strategic defeat in American history. Born 1990, enlisted 2010. Iraq 2014 through 17, Afghanistan 18 through 21, Syria 23. 4-star General 2029. Wrote The Price of Hegemony, How America Lost the World. Controversial bestseller, some called him prophet, others traitor. Testified before Congress 17 times, CNN military analyst. Died 2068, age 78. Admiral Wyatt Drake received blame for scuttling Pacific Fleet. Born 1987. Naval Academy 2009. Court of Inquiry cleared him, but career ended. Teaches naval strategy at Naval War College. Published Sea Denial, Naval Strategy in Geographic Isolation, 2039. Definitive text on post-hegemonic naval operations. Colonel Phoenix Hawthorne's Special Operations extracted trapped personnel. 147 covert missions over 18 months. Recovered 83% of stranded Americans. Lost 12 operators, saved 4,300 Americans. Promoted Brigadier General 2034. Commands Strategic Isolation Warfare Command, youngest two-star general in Army. Captain Tyler Rivers transitioned to domestic intelligence. Foreign networks collapsed without allies. New mission, predicting domestic threats in isolated America. Warned of extremism as economy contracted. Director Domestic Threat Assessment 2036. Civil libertarians accuse surveillance state. He argues isolation demands internal security. Major Jackson Carter left service 2033. Professor International Relations, Georgetown. Course, Alliance Management Multipolar World, most popular. Published, The Betrayal, How America Lost Allies, 2036. Bestseller translated 23 languages, testifies Senate Foreign Relations Committee regularly. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Sterling remained Naval Intelligence, rebuilding after Allied intelligence loss. Promoted Commander 33, Captain 37. Leads Project Sovereign Eye, 64 satellites for global coverage without Allied ground stations. $80 billion program, operational 2042. Success means admiral. Failure means America stays blind. Strategic analysis, scenario, presents vulnerability to coordinated diplomatic abandonment. Historical comparisons, Britain after Suez 56, France withdrawing from NATO. Both recovered as diminished powers. America's situation more severe due to overseas basing dependence. Technology factor. Modern warfare needs forward presence. Without Allied bases, power projection problematic. Carrier aircraft range 500 nautical miles. Insufficient for deep Eurasia strikes. Economic consequences. Trade disruption catastrophic. American economy imports 40% of goods. Without Allied ports, economy contracts 20 to 30% within 2 years. Social impact. Isolation sparks internal crisis. Some demand reconciliation at any cost. Others embrace nationalism. Political polarization intensifies dramatically. Military doctrine. Forces reorganize for hemispheric defense. Monroe Doctrine returns. Focus shifts from global intervention to continental security. Long-term outlook. Isolated great powers face gradual decline. Britain post-World War I. Soviet Cold War. Geographic isolation sustainable but economically costly. What if NATO dissolved? What if Japan abandoned America? What if Australia allied with China? Write in comments which scenario you want next. Scariest alternative. What if Russia and China fully unified? Combined population 1.6 billion. Combined military 5 million active personnel. Combined nuclear arsenal 8,000 warheads. American isolation becomes encirclement. Like this video? Want more alternative military history? Subscribe for weekly scenarios. Next week, what if America tried to reconquer lost bases by force? Could 200,000 Marines retake Europe? Math says no. Physics says maybe. History says watch to find out. Share this video with anyone who thinks American global presence is permanent. Nothing in history is permanent. Alliances are transactional. Loyalty is conditional. Power is temporary. Today's hegemon becomes tomorrow's memory. Comment below. How would you survive isolated America? What strategy would you use? Let's build the next scenario together.